What do you need, young lady? You've accepted the mission to escort us to Thunderstead Village, haven't you?
Kevin Schuyler, of course, knew she was referring to the scroll in his hand. But how did she instantly recognize it was their scroll? These scrolls all looked identical on the outside, and even after carefully examining it earlier, Kevin Schuyler hadn't noticed any distinguishing marks.
You don't need to look anymore. This scroll has been enchanted. No matter where it is, we can always find it. Dark arts? Stop talking nonsense. You've accepted this task, so now you're coming with us. Wait, miss, there's been a misunderstanding. I accidentally got this scroll. I'll return it right away. You can find someone else.
Kevin Schuyler immediately thought of going back to exchange it for another.
Stop right there.
The young lady furrowed her delicate brows, her large, sparkling eyes flashing with anger.
If we weren't in a hurry, we wouldn't even need a low-level guard like you. And you dare refuse?
Kevin Schuyler stared at the young lady, his mind racing but unable to make sense of the situation. What kind of world is this? Reluctantly, Kevin Schuyler had no choice but to follow the young lady to their starting point. Inside a carriage, another person was seated, but Kevin couldn't see clearly due to the curtain blocking the view. Around the carriage were 4 ordinary bearers, all tall and strong. By the window stood another young lady, dressed identically to the one who had stopped Kevin. Kevin thought to himself, Heavenly Emperor City is so safe, and Thunderstead Village is only a few kilometers away on the map. Why would they need to hire a guard? The person in the carriage must be the real target, could it be?
Hey, let's get moving.
The young lady placed one hand on her hip, while using the other as a makeshift megaphone to shout. Kevin Schuyler had no other choice but to lead the way, holding the map from the scroll and slowly heading toward the destination.
Why aren't we taking the direct route? Why are we making such a big detour?
After walking for a while, Kevin was forced to change paths by the young lady and couldn't help but ask.
Just follow along. Your job is to protect us, not to ask questions.
Kevin Schuyler thought it made sense. As long as they could protect the journey to Thunderstead Village, the route didn't matter. He also took the opportunity to explore the forest, hoping for some encounters with magical beasts. With this in mind, Kevin Schuyler quickened his pace, stepping onto a narrow mountain path flanked by dense bushes. Beyond the bushes stood towering ancient trees. Occasionally, the chirping of birds or an encounter with small snakes and doves brought him silent delight, reminding him of the giant serpent he had faced before, a truly colossal creature. A shiver ran through Kevin Schuyler as he shook off the memory and continued walking. Along the way, the 2 young women remained stationed beside the carriage, never straying or uttering a word. Kevin Schuyler, knowing any attempt at conversation would likely hit a wall, decided to forge ahead on his own. As he reached the midpoint of the bushline path, Kevin Schuyler finally noticed something unusual. For someone with sharp observational skills, the diminishing sound of birdsong was enough to trigger his suspicion. He quickly accelerated the vortex atop his head, touched the heaven-worn thong strapped to his back, and heightened his vigilance. The young women behind him clearly hadn't detected anything amiss yet. As expected, a kunai suddenly flew out from the bushes ahead, followed by a shadowy figure leaping into the air. Kevin Schuyler had already sensed the presence of the shadow the moment it revealed its aura. Thanks to his mastery of using energy and his extraordinary intelligence, he could seamlessly adapt to natural elements. Moreover, he had already calculated the kunai's explosive talisman. With a swift motion of his palm, a powerful wave of energy intercepted the deadly kunai and sent it flying back. The ensuing explosion didn't harm Kevin Schuyler in the slightest. His precise calculation of force demonstrated his intellect, efficient and injury-free. The shadowy figure hesitated for a brief moment before lunging forward, both hands gripping daggers that glinted with a cold, menacing light.
An assassin.
Without hesitation, Kevin Schuyler unsheathed the heaven-born Fang and swung it mid-air. The assassin, naturally unwilling to meet the blow head-on, dodged and counterattacked from the side, clearly aiming for the person inside the carriage. Kevin Schuyler missed his first strike, but quickly pivoted and swung again. The assassin leapt to evade the blade and lunged toward the carriage. Kevin Schuyler, of course, wouldn't give him the chance. With a powerful kick, he intercepted the assassin's advance. Forced to block with his fists, the assassin used the momentum to flip backward and retreat. Kevin Schuyler exhaled in relief. At that moment, the two young women finally drew their swords, though Kevin Schuyler could tell from the energy waves that they weren't as skilled as the assassin before him. Meanwhile, the carriage bearers hurriedly set the carriage down to protect the person inside. As Kevin Schuyler was about to strike, the assassin suddenly turned and fled. Without hesitation, Kevin Schuyler gave chase. The young woman stomped her foot in frustration.
You fool, come back. This is clearly a lure to draw you away. You're absolutely right.
From the bushes nearby, 3 shadowy figures leapt out, forming a triangular blockade in front of everyone. Their formation alone exuded confidence. The leader, unmistakably the boss, held daggers in both hands, his entire body wrapped in black fabric.
Hiring such an idiot, what a mistake,
the young woman said, her voice laced with worry and anger. The black-clad figures showed no intention of attacking or advancing. They simply stood motionless in place.
Miss Sterling, it seems you'd better come back with us after all. Don't even think about it, you shameless scoundrel. Do you want to see a massive horde of wild beasts invade the territories of the 3 kingdoms? Get out of the way. If we miss the sealing hour, you might go down in history as the eternal sinner. Miss Sterling dared to secretly escape, bringing only a handful of people to Thunderstead Village. Truly, her courage knows no bounds. If we hadn't accidentally stumbled upon you, you might have actually succeeded in deceiving us. Though we're merely a small patrol team, dealing with your ragtag group is more than manageable. If that foolish mercenary were still here, it might have been a bit troublesome. But now, it seems you have no means of resistance left. Surrender and come with us.
While speaking, the 2 men in black behind him pulled out ropes, clearly intending to use words first before resorting to action.
Are you talking about me?
Everyone looked up to see a young man leaping down from a tree at astonishing speed. By the time the assassins reacted, a powerful killing intent accompanied by heaven-born Fang loomed over their heads. The 3 had planned to combine their attacks to evade, but Kevin Schuyler had already calculated the angles beforehand. He struck the one at the back first, exploiting the blind spots created by their movements to avoid their coordinated assault. The targeted assassin's expression changed drastically, and unable to dodge in time, he raised his dagger defensively. On the dagger, yellow Kai energy radiated a deadly aura, meeting heaven-born Fang head-on. Yes, it was Kevin Schuyler. During his clash with the first man in black, Kevin had already noticed the other 3. To lure them out and uncover the employer's intentions, he deliberately pretended to fall into their trap, sending a clone to chase the first assassin while he hid in the trees, waiting for the opportune moment. For Kevin Schuyler, ever since mastering the use of energy, mimicking others' combat techniques had become second nature. Creating clones was as easy as flipping a hand.
Clang! Boom!
The struck assassin was sent flying, crashing to the ground, clearly unable to rise anytime soon. Seizing the momentum, Kevin leaped forward. The remaining 2 assassins, evidently well-trained, charged at him the moment they spotted him. As Kevin landed, he immediately sprang up again, attacking with a wide, forceful slash. The overwhelming killing intent forced the 2 assassins to retreat. To their frustration, Their Kai energy was rapidly absorbed by Kevin's heaven-born Fang upon contact. Within moments, they were visibly drained. Kevin quickly noticed this phenomenon. Although heaven-born Fang didn't emit any energy fluctuations, it was undeniably absorbing their Kai energy at an astonishing rate during each clash. Though he didn't know where the absorbed energy was going, Kevin wasn't about to waste this opportunity. Giving them no chance to recover, he launched relentless attacks. The vortex above him spun faster, drawing on the essence in his core to fuel heaven-born Fang with immense power, making it nearly unstoppable. The two assassins struggled to defend themselves. After dozens of exchanges, they retreated a distance, tossing aside their daggers and shedding their black cloaks, revealing their true appearances.
The ninja, once again a ninja from Maple Leaf City. Aren't you afraid of provoking a war between the two nations? Humph, provoking a war? So what? Heavenly Emperor City will eventually be destroyed at the hands of Lord Ethan Woods. Ninjutsu, fire release fireball technique.
As soon as the words were spoken, the man in black suddenly unleashed a fireball with a diameter of 50 centimeters. Kevin Schuyler was slightly startled. It was his first time witnessing ninjutsu, and he couldn't figure out how they performed it, but he could confirm it was different from combat techniques. Kevin Schuyler aimed at the center of the fireball. Heaven-born Fang swung fiercely, using all the energy he had gathered. A loud explosion echoed. Kevin Schuyler was forced back a few steps, but the fireball was dispersed. Just as he was about to breathe a sigh of relief, another earthen bullet of similar size came from behind. This time, Kevin Schuyler panicked. He couldn't gather enough energy in such a short time. Dodging would risk injuring the people behind him. Left with no choice, he used his own vital energy. Kevin Schuyler channeled all his remaining vital energy into heaven-born Fang. The normally ordinary weapon began to emit a faint purple glow. Feeling reassured, Kevin Schuyler noticed the power surging from heaven-born Fang was no weaker than the earlier strike. At that moment, he realized his spiritual energy could merge into heaven-born Fang. What shocked him even more was discovering a vortex within heaven-born Fang. If not for being in the midst of an enemy attack, Kevin Schuyler might have shouted in surprise. He stepped back and swung heaven-born Fang with the momentum. This time, the force was much greater. Sharp wind blades slashed out from the sides, while a massive blade aura in the center shattered the earthen bullet. The two ninjas hurriedly retreated but were still a step too late. The wind blades mercilessly struck them. Despite their best efforts to release Kai energy for defense, they were sent flying over 10 meters. Kevin Schuyler immediately pursued and knocked them unconscious before tying them up with vines. He finally realized the growing potential within himself. The move he had just performed would be considered his second combat technique. He decided to name it Wind Spear. Kevin Schuyler silently made a decision. The technique he had used earlier in Heavenly Emperor City, which he called Spiral Ring, was his first combat skill. The young woman, seeing Kevin Schuyler subdue the assassin, couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. At that moment, the person inside the carriage finally spoke.
Hurry to Thunderstead Village. If we're late, something might happen.
The voice was that of a woman. Hearing this, the two young women quickly urged the carriage drivers to speed up toward Thunderstead. After some speculation, Kevin Schuyler deduced that this woman might be someone from Heavenly Emperor City, heading to seal something very important that could determine the fate of the three nations. But why would people from Maple Leaf City want to interfere? Observing the attire of the ninjas carefully, Kevin Schuyler suddenly noticed something and nodded. Looking toward the departing carriage, he seemed to have understood something. After 5 hours of continuous travel, night had fallen, and Kevin Schuyler, along with the group, finally reached Thunderstead. Along the way, they encountered nothing unusual. According to the assassins, they had only stumbled upon the group by chance while patrolling. Thus, it seemed unlikely that any other powerful individuals knew Lady Sterling was taking this route. Otherwise, even Kevin Schuyler might not have been able to handle the situation.
Well, your task is complete. Here's your reward. Your strength is quite impressive, perhaps nearing the level of an intermediate warrior.
The young woman seemed to have developed a favorable impression of Kevin Schuyler for saving them. Naturally, Kevin Schuyler didn't miss the chance to gather information. After asking a few questions, he learned that on this island, strength levels were divided into 3 main tiers for warriors: beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Each tier was further divided into upper, middle, and lower sublevels. According to the young woman's assessment, Kevin Schuyler's strength was likely at the intermediate level. However, with his immense potential and extraordinary intellect, Kevin Schuyler was destined not to stop there. Beyond the advanced level were the ranks of Battle King, Battle Emperor, and Battle God, with each rank consisting of 9 minor levels. Of course, up until now, the young woman had never encountered anyone at the Battle God level. She had, however, seen a Battle King before, and had heard that the current Lord of Heavenly Emperor City, Philip Lawrence, seemed to have reached the Battle King level. Similarly, magicians were categorized as beginner, intermediate, advanced, then Magic King, Magic Emperor, and Magic God. Ninjas followed the same structure: beginner, intermediate, advanced, then Ninja King, Ninja Emperor, and Ninja God. It was rumored that cultivation had no limits, and levels beyond the God rank might exist. Kevin Schuyler was secretly astonished. His strength was still so low. How long would it take for him to accept higher-level missions? How could he improve his cultivation? Lost in thought, Kevin Schuyler began to ponder deeply.
Hey, what are you daydreaming about?
The young lady presented a handkerchief. Kevin Schuyler glanced at it. It was quite beautiful, about 20 centimeters on each side, with a strange pattern embroidered on it. Kevin Schuyler shook his head.
You can keep it. I don't need this. I only need money.
The young lady glared at him, her eyes filled with both anger and a hint of helplessness, as if she had something to say. Sure enough, she raised her voice and shouted,
You fool! This is Miss Sterling's handkerchief. Do you know how many wealthy young men fight over this? It's a steal for you, and yet you don't even want it.
Hearing this, Kevin Schuyler thought for a moment. Selling it might fetch a good price, so he politely accepted the handkerchief. It carried a faint, soothing fragrance that left him feeling at ease. Kevin Schuyler smiled contentedly.
I'll find someone to sell it to later and see how much it's worth,
he muttered to himself. Suddenly, he sensed something was amiss. Looking up, he saw the young lady's face twisted in fury, her hands trembling as they clenched into fists. Without hesitation, Kevin Schuyler turned and bolted, sprinting straight into Thunderstead, ignoring the young lady's angry shouts behind him. From that moment on, Kevin Schuyler finally began to learn how to fight, how to unleash his combat skills. A completely new form of battle, based on energy, was starting to take shape. ### Chapter 9 Leveled Up. Thunderstead Village is a large settlement located to the north of Heavenly Emperor City, and it is the closest village to the northern forest. Since there has been no magical beast attack for a long time, the defenses here are not overly strict. However, at the gate, 2 tall guards wielding blades stand watch, clearly originating from the Heavenly Guardian Legion of Heavenly Emperor City, exuding the same imposing aura. The village is surrounded by sturdy stone walls, with only 2 gates at the front and back for entry and exit. The number of guards at the rear gate is significantly higher than at the front. Kevin Schuyler flashed a bright smile as he stepped into the village. The guards here were not as stern as those in Heavenly Emperor City, so they returned Kevin Schuyler's smile. This village was quite large, housing nearly 1,000 families, with a population of around 40 to 50,000 people. As Kevin Schuyler entered the village, he observed elderly women enjoying the breeze, children playing, women returning from washing clothes, and robust men loudly sharpening their blades. The sounds of roosters crowing and dogs barking filled the air, creating a peaceful, idyllic rural scene. The villagers quickly noticed Kevin Schuyler, the newcomer, and politely invited him to join them for dinner. Not wanting to trouble anyone, Kevin Schuyler accepted their hospitality, but left promptly after expressing his gratitude. By now, it was late, and entering the forest today seemed unlikely. First, he needed to find a place to rest for the night. Not wanting to inconvenience others, he leaped onto the roof of a large house, laying flat as he focused on the changes occurring within his body. After the battle earlier today, he noticed that the heaven-born Fang seemed to have vortexes similar to those within his own body. Could it be that the heaven-born Fang was originally part of his body? Moreover, the vortex in the head area appeared to be more agile, and the vortex in his right hand rotated much faster than before. His dantian was completely empty of energy, but under the regulation of the vortex in the head, the other vortexes throughout his body were gradually rotating. Although invisible to the eye, Kevin Schuyler's powerful spiritual sense allowed him to perceive the motion of these vortexes. As they turned, under the guidance of the head vortex, they absorbed the energy of heaven and earth, condensing it into strands of essence that spiraled into the dantian. Slowly, these spirals formed a golden gaseous sphere within his dantian. Kevin Schuyler had finally discovered how to circulate his essence. If all the vortexes in his body could function like the one in his right hand, wouldn't he become invincible? However, as soon as he tried, he realized his mistake. While his spiritual force allowed him to flexibly control the vortex in his right hand, attempting to manipulate all the vortexes in his body felt akin to trying to move an entire mountain. It was utterly unmanageable. Moreover, even focusing on one vortex yielded no results. Kevin Schuyler found it strange. Why could only the right-hand vortex be controlled? Feeling the rotation of the right-hand vortex, Kevin Schuyler exerted his full strength to accelerate it. Instantly, the vortex spun faster, drawing in the surrounding energy of heaven and earth like a raging tide. This time, Kevin Schuyler did not channel energy directly into the vortex. Instead, as the energy entered his body and approached the vortex, he used his spiritual power to redirect it to his dantian. After rotating hundreds of times within the dantian, the energy could steadily flow into the light sphere, stabilizing its internal rotation and transforming into Kevin Schuyler's essence energy. Kevin Schuyler had once tried continuously absorbing and storing energy within the vortex, but the more energy the vortex held, the stronger the spiritual power required to control it. It was impossible to keep focusing spiritual energy on the vortex indefinitely. Wouldn't that be counterproductive? If the spiritual control was lost, the energy would run rampant within the vortex and might even erupt outward, resulting in consequences similar to what happened in Heavenly Emperor City. Hence, Kevin Schuyler dared not attempt it again. Based on his self-awareness and the information he had gathered from various sources, Kevin Schuyler knew how to enhance his strength. First, through meditation to strengthen his spiritual power. Second, by circulating the golden essence energy within his body to increase its quantity, speed, and formation. The speed, quality, and application of Chi energy would be the key factors in determining victory or defeat among warriors. Third, he needed to improve the proficiency of the right-hand vortex. If this vortex were pushed to its limit and combined with powerful spiritual energy, it could unleash devastating attacks. Additionally, there was the terrifying offensive boost provided by Heaven-born Fang. Furthermore, it seemed necessary to join an organization. However, Kevin Schuyler had an innate aversion to schools. While he might need companions, he would not easily enroll in one. He wondered how the little fox was doing, it wasn't truly a fox. With Michael Carter as its mentor, it should be fine. After entering the forest, he planned to visit it again. That little creature was his first friend. As Kevin Schuyler contemplated while training, the essence energy in his dantian unconsciously returned to its original level, and even seemed to increase slightly. His right hand felt a bit warm, and his head grew slightly fatigued. Kevin Schuyler stopped the rotation of the right-hand vortex, and looked at his slightly heated palm. He felt as if the heavens and earth were within his grasp. Raising his right hand with the palm facing the sky, he exerted all his strength to accelerate the vortex. Kevin Schuyler decided to name this vortex Lin Bing. Pouring his spiritual power into it frantically, he pushed Lin Bing to rotate with all his might. Under the moonlight, Kevin Schuyler stood at the center of the massive vortex as the energy of heaven and earth surged like great waves into his palm. His heart was utterly calm as he felt the energy pouring in, his chest swelling with boundless pride. His left hand curved into an arc, and it seemed as though the left-hand vortex also began to stir slightly. Minutes passed in this state, with Kevin Schuyler standing still, eyes closed, and mind focused, without slowing the absorption process. Outside Thunderstead Village, atop a towering tree, a stunning figure clad in black stood upright on the treetop. Her curvaceous chest and hips were accentuated by her tight-fitting outfit, making her even more alluring. She gazed intently at the faint vortex visible in the distance and murmured,
"That fool is at it again, isn't he?"
The dark figure leaped into the air, heading in Kevin Schuyler's direction. Just as she was about to soar beyond the treetop, she suddenly halted mid-flight. Kevin Schuyler abruptly opened his eyes, which were filled with murderous intent, emitting an almost tangible purple glow. The vortex in his right hand came to an abrupt stop. Clenching his fist tightly, he drew it back to his chest, beads of sweat already forming on his forehead. Controlling such a vast amount of energy was the limit of Kevin Schuyler's current abilities. Grimacing in pain, he used his left hand to grasp his right, once again raising a single hand skyward. Under the control of his immense spiritual power, not a single trace of essence energy mingled with the surrounding elemental energy. Though powerful, it was still within his control. Kevin Schuyler slowly released his hand, allowing the elemental energy to discharge at 100-fold the speed at which it was absorbed. Yet, he maintained precise control, ensuring no energy leaked out. From afar, one could see a beam of light, 2 meters in diameter, piercing through the sky. After more than 10 minutes of releasing the energy, Kevin Schuyler finally collapsed from exhaustion, having fully discharged the compressed energy. Falling helplessly to the ground, Kevin Schuyler finally understood. The vortex and his mind were interconnected, as though each vortex was a part of him. It wasn't about control, it was an extension of himself. The vortex was him, and he was the vortex. After this moment of enlightenment, Kevin Schuyler felt an overwhelming wave of drowsiness, and couldn't resist closing his eyes, falling into a deep sleep. On the treetop outside the village, the dark figure halted her flight and landed gracefully. For a brief moment, a rare look of astonishment flickered in her eyes before her expression returned to its usual cold demeanor. In Thunderstead Village, most of the villagers were fast asleep, unaware of anything unusual. However, in a few households, pairs of bright eyes opened, their spiritual energy surging like tidal waves under the guidance of C.A. Lully. These energies rushed toward Kevin Schuyler, swirling above him in the air. They intertwined for a while, and among them, one strand of spiritual energy attempted to approach Kevin Schuyler. Suddenly, an immensely powerful spiritual force surged in from outside the village. The spiritual energies hovering above Kevin Schuyler visibly trembled and ceased their movements. After a brief exchange, they all withdrew from Kevin Schuyler. The powerful spiritual force lingered above Kevin Schuyler for a long time, guarding him, before finally departing. Unaware of all this, Kevin Schuyler remained in a deep sleep, his powers having grown stronger once again. Chapter 10. The seal failed. The next morning, the sunlight quickly dispelled the darkness over Thunderstead, bringing dawn to the villagers. Kevin Schuyler, who had been sleeping on the roof, only woke up naturally when the sun had already caused the morning training soldiers to break out in a light sweat. Slowly opening his eyes, he rubbed them, adjusted his breathing with satisfaction, and took deep breaths, as if he wanted to inhale all the air in the world. Ah! Kevin Schuyler let out a soft groan, leapt off the roof, flipped a few times, and suddenly, feeling spirited, began an intense martial arts routine for half an hour before stopping. This earned cheers from the nearby villagers. Kevin Schuyler smiled sheepishly, turned his gaze toward the endless northern forest, and stepped forward with determination.
Stop! No one is allowed into the forest without higher authorization.
Kevin Schuyler was stopped by the village guards when he was still about 10 meters away. Rolling his eyes, Kevin Schuyler tilted his head.
Not allowed in, huh?
Humph. Then I'll climb the wall. Facing the 4 to 5 meter high wall, Kevin Schuyler gathered all his strength, leapt up, took a few agile steps, and was soon inside the forest. On the forest's edge, there were visible traces of human activity. Clearly, others had climbed the wall and entered just like Kevin Schuyler. Sparse giant trees cast large shadows under the sunlight. Rubbing his stomach, Kevin Schuyler quickly ventured deeper into the forest. After walking about 1,000 meters, he finally found some wild fruits growing on the ground. The berries, bright red and plump, were irresistible. Without hesitation, he popped them into his mouth. The sweet and sour juice flooded his senses, and the rich aroma lingered delightfully. He ate several rounds until his stomach was full. Satisfied, he plopped down onto the ground, propping himself up with his hands, and looked up with a burp. Squinting slightly, he gazed at the shy sunlight peeking through like a bashful maiden. The fresh air and the tranquil atmosphere of the forest brought an unparalleled sense of clarity. Kevin Schuyler suddenly felt an indescribable happiness. Unfortunately, this feeling didn't last long.
Boom!
Not far away, a pillar of light shot into the sky, like a divine presence descending, even dimming the sun above. A cacophony of bird cries erupted, as all the birds fled the area. Kevin Schuyler jumped to his feet and, without hesitation, dashed toward the pillar of light. The light not only didn't fade but grew even more distinct, as though a stone pillar had always stood there. The beam stretched straight into the heavens, exuding a sense of holding up the sky. Kevin Schuyler was not someone who enjoyed bustling crowds, but his pursuit of truth governed his actions, so he naturally wouldn't overlook this strange phenomenon. The closer he got to the pillar of light, the more Kevin Schuyler felt an overwhelming force pressing against him, causing his steps to falter. Steadying himself with a light touch on a tree branch, he pushed forward resolutely despite the resistance. From a distance, he could vaguely see a group of people surrounding something. Kevin Schuyler suppressed his aura, activated his enhanced vision, and quietly observed the forest ahead. A woman knelt on the ground, hands raised, head tilted toward the sky, mumbling something under her breath. Beside her stood 2 women with drawn swords, acting as guards. They were the same women Kevin Schuyler had protected earlier. However, the woman who had been inside the palanquin had now emerged. Her beauty was otherworldly, her long hair cascading down to her waist. Her delicate eyebrows and bright eyes exuded an ethereal charm. She wore a golden circlet on her head, adorned with a diamond-shaped purple gold gemstone at the front, radiating a dazzling light. Her elegant face displayed an air of solemnity and gravitas. With her eyes closed and her pearly teeth clenched, she was dressed in a ceremonial robe. Around her neck hung a silver chain with a small, semi-transparent figurine that resembled her. In front of this woman stood a golden holy sword, half embedded in the ground. The cylindrical pillar of light originated from this sword. The holy sword emitted a terrifying energy. Its golden blade was a masterpiece, with sharp, straight contours radiating a brilliant glow. The sun itself seemed dim in comparison. After maintaining this tranquil state for over 10 minutes, the woman suddenly opened her eyes, which shone like a bright moon suspended in the sky, serene and pure, as if they were the source of the world's essence. Kevin Schuyler was secretly astonished. This woman was extraordinary. Despite showing no signs of combat power, she could channel the energy of heaven and earth through her unique hand seals to manifest such a phenomenon. Could this be magic? Or, wait.
Shamanic arts, that's it. It must be shamanic arts.
Kevin Schuyler recalled the words of the woman from the day before, and suddenly understood. This was a mysterious form of combat technique that coexisted with magic in the world, incredibly enigmatic and exceedingly rare. Shamanic arts often appeared in women, and their powerful barriers and sealing abilities made them a force to be reckoned with, even among the great warring clans. As Kevin Schuyler pondered this, he suddenly saw the woman cough up blood and collapse weakly, her eyes filled with disappointment. The holy sword's light began to fade, and the world returned to its normal state. The female guards immediately rushed to support her, their faces full of concern. One of them anxiously asked,
"Miss, are you all right?"
The woman gently brushed it aside, weakly saying,
"Quickly stand guard again. We must seal the celestial star forest before they arrive. Otherwise, if the beasts break out, the three kingdoms will descend into chaos. But my lady, you haven't succeeded since yesterday. I fear the seal won't hold. No, even if it costs me my life, I must seal it with my own hands. Ha ha ha, it seems you're already too late."
A loud laugh carried by the wind echoed, as several ninjas suddenly appeared, fully armed. The concealed weapons in their hands made it clear that their mission was to kill, not capture. Kevin Schuyler had already sensed their presence but refrained from acting, fearing it would provoke disaster. However, Kevin Schuyler's caution seemed unnecessary. Unbeknownst to him, the technique he used to conceal his energy was unlike any martial arts familiar to the three kingdoms on the island. Once he suppressed his aura, he blended in like part of the environment, as long as he remained still or didn't exert force. At this moment, 5 ninjas surrounded the woman in the center. The leader of the group revealed a cruel smile. Judging by their attire, these ninjas belonged to Maple Leaf City. Yet, as Kevin Schuyler observed closely and recalled the assassins he had encountered earlier, he quickly pieced together the situation.
"Lady Sterling, it seems today will be your final day. Ever since I left my master, I've never feared death. It's just that seeing you all destroy the peace of this land, plunging the common people into endless flames of war, makes you truly sinners of the ages."
Clearly, this young lady's words carried a sense of morality, maintaining her composure even at such a moment.
Still acting arrogant when death
is near. I initially thought of sparing your life because of your beauty, letting you serve me for a few years. But now, seeing that you're not that kind of person, I'll just kill you and be done with it.
Seeing this, the young woman said no more. She focused her energy, forming seals with her hands while chanting softly. The holy sword embedded in the ground began to hum, showing signs of breaking free. The leader of the ninjas immediately commanded, "Kill her." The ninjas moved swiftly, before the word, "kill," had fully left his lips. 4 of them had already leaped into the air. 2 petite and delicate guards, clearly ornamental figures by the noble side, didn't even have time to raise their swords before red lines appeared on their necks. With faces full of unwillingness and terror, they slowly fell. The young woman glanced at them, evidently pained, but still gritted her teeth and continued forming seals, as if nothing around her mattered. However, the ninja's projectiles were closing in on her. Kevin Schuyler quickly assessed the situation. This young woman seemed to be sealing something capable of threatening the Three Kingdoms, while these ninjas were trying to stop her. This implied they intended to spark chaos and war. But why? If they were ninjas from Maple Leaf City, they shouldn't want to witness actions that could lead to war. What benefit would war bring to them? Kevin himself had only recently reached the early stage of advanced combat power, while these ninjas, based on his analysis, were at least mid-tier intermediate level. Acting recklessly would be unwise. However, he couldn't bear to watch a world he had just come to know spiral into chaos. So, he decided to intervene. If he couldn't defeat them, perhaps he could at least intimidate them.
Stop! Being from Heavenly Emperor's City, yet wanting to destroy Heavenly Emperor's City, even at the cost of inciting war. This is truly hard to ignore. Stop pretending to be mysterious. Show yourself.
The leader, panic-stricken, looked around nervously, shouting in agitation. He had no idea someone was hiding nearby. Even City Lord Philip Lawrence wouldn't dare treat me like this, and yet a mere mid to upper level warrior dares raise his voice at me. Truly insolent.
The final
was especially emphasized, reflecting this person's fury. The ninja leader silently contemplated. After receiving news from his subordinates about spotting third Miss Sterling, he immediately reported it to his superiors before following her here. Initially, he hadn't planned to act but decided to intervene when it seemed Miss Sterling was about to succeed. This time, encountering such a peculiar figure, he couldn't discern where the voice was coming from. Moreover, this person had exposed a scheme orchestrated by his superiors, a high-level secret even he wasn't fully aware of. How could this person know? And if not even the city lord dared challenge him, could it be that this individual was even more formidable? The city lord had already reached the 9th rank of Battle King. For a moment, he was thrown into confusion, involuntarily stepping back 2 paces. The mysterious figure was none other than Kevin Schuyler. Kevin Schuyler had split into 4 clones, positioning them in 4 directions. Each clone emitted sounds at slightly different speeds, making it seem as though the voice came from all around. The ninja's reaction further confirmed Kevin Schuyler's suspicion. These people were not from Maple Leaf City. Kevin Schuyler's earlier words were merely speculation, but it was now clear that this time, a certain force within Heavenly Emperor's City had sparked the war for some unknown reason. However, the specific motive likely extended beyond a simple struggle for the throne of Heavenly Emperor's City. Ninjas, possessing the highest overall aptitude among all warriors, could not be easily intimidated into chaos. Moreover, judging by their knowledge of Sterling, these individuals were likely from Heavenly Emperor's City.
Get out of my sight. Killing you would dirty my hands. Go back and tell your turtleshell master that if he dares to disturb me again, I, Lion, will obliterate his entire faction.
The voice carried immense authority and fury, resonating through the dense forest. As Kevin Schuyler recounted this, cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Controlling the vortex above and manipulating the surrounding energy field, Lion exerted pressure on everyone present. The leader, who initially intended to probe further, broke into a cold sweat upon hearing this. The invisible pressure steadily advanced. Lion, though unfamiliar, seemed to have an intimate understanding of their group, even knowing their master. Though it was merely a patrol, the leader's true identity was that of a spy for the master's secret organization. But how had this individual seen through him? Regardless, the leader had already reported to his superiors, and their response was to prevent the priestess's seal. Once noon passed, the seal would become ineffective, rendering the priestess irrelevant, dead or alive. This matter was no longer worth meddling in, nor did it warrant taking risks. Moreover, noon had already arrived, and the seal's time had passed.
Killing the priestess now made no difference. After careful consideration, the leader waved his hand and said, "Retreat." The group immediately withdrew without leaving a trace. Kevin Schuyler confirmed multiple times that no one remained before hurriedly stepping out to check the breaths of the two bodyguards. It seemed they had perished. Meanwhile, Lady Sterling was still struggling to activate the holy sword. Kevin Schuyler silently observed her. Her frail body, yet resolute endurance of such overwhelming power, astonished him. Though trembling all over, her posture and hand gestures stood firm like a statue between heaven and earth, resembling a goddess descended to the mortal realm, unwavering in her task. Finally, she coughed up a mouthful of blood and collapsed entirely. Kevin Schuyler quickly rushed forward to catch her, letting her upper body rest against his shoulder. The young woman saw that the approaching figure was a youthful man. She let out a helpless, bitter smile and murmured,
"Could this be fate? The seal that the priestess clan has protected for 100 years is now destroyed just like that? Why was it ruined in my hands? I'm truly useless."
Kevin Schuyler calmly analyzed the situation and was about to offer some words of comfort when his spiritual senses suddenly trembled. A powerful individual was approaching. Unbeknownst to Kevin Schuyler himself, his sensitivity to energy was incredibly sharp. The overwhelming aura of this person was left completely unmasked, allowing Kevin Schuyler to detect it from afar. It seemed the person was extremely confident. They were swiftly heading in this direction, and there also appeared to be a familiar energy signature. It seemed to be someone brought here by the ninja from earlier. Without hesitation, Kevin Schuyler scooped up the young woman and prepared to evade the approaching figures by heading toward Heavenly Emperor's city. However, the woman, with a weak and trembling hand, tugged at Kevin Schuyler's sleeve and said,
"You mustn't go to Heavenly Emperor's city. They are on the same side. Returning there means certain death."
Kevin Schuyler immediately turned around. With one direction ruled out, the only choice was the opposite path, which led to Celestial Star Forest. At that moment, Kevin Schuyler's mind raced through a series of thoughts. The woman had just stated that returning would mean certain death, leaving no room for doubt. Without delay, he turned toward the forest. Better to face wild beasts than fall into the hands of treacherous enemies. Carrying Miss Sterling, Kevin Schuyler exerted all his strength to flee the area. Naturally, following Miss Sterling's instructions, he didn't abandon the holy sword. The sword, measuring 2 meters in length and with a blade 30 centimeters wide, was truly a colossal weapon. It was also incredibly heavy, weighing at least 100 kilograms. Even with such burdens, Kevin Schuyler dared not waste a moment. He meticulously erased all traces of their escape. His observational skills were extraordinarily sharp at that time, ensuring that every trace of their departure was completely wiped away. The person who arrived was the superior of the leader. Upon hearing the subordinate's report, he immediately flew into a rage, beating the subordinate harshly.
"What's in that head of yours? Frightened by just a few words? You're a mid-level warrior, yet you ran off without even seeing the opponent's face? Am I feeding you all for nothing?"
After being scolded, the leader felt deeply aggrieved. After all, the seal hadn't worked. Instead of being rewarded or praised for his discovery, he was berated like this. He thought to himself,
"I don't even want to do this anymore. What if the opponent turns out to be a battle king? Wouldn't he crush me like an ant?" They even said that not even City Lord Philip Lawrence dared to raise his voice against him. What could I possibly do?
Though he thought this, he didn't dare voice it aloud. Feeling wronged, the leader led his superior to the scene. However, upon arrival, they found nothing. No trace of the 2 dead guards, no blood, not even a hint that anything had ever occurred. It was as if the entire incident had been erased. Enraged once more, the superior beat the leader again.
"I followed you all the way here for what? To look at nothing? You spun some grand tale for me, made it sound so real, and now look, there's nothing to see.
The leader was utterly frustrated. Moments ago, everything had clearly been there. What on earth was going on? Could it have all been a dream? He glanced toward the celestial star forest, shook his head, and felt a whirlwind of emotions churning inside him. The one who had erased the traces was, of course, Kevin Schuyler. At that moment, Kevin Schuyler was perched on a massive tree near the central area of the celestial star forest. The tree was so enormous that one couldn't see its full shape from any single angle. Carefully concealed, Kevin Schuyler observed his surroundings. Only when dusk approached and no pursuers appeared did he finally relax. Throughout this time, Miss Sterling remained quietly nestled in Kevin Schuyler's arms. Looking at the young man, a few years her junior, a peculiar feeling stirred in her heart. His delicate features, high nose bridge, and faint stubble on his chin all exuded a youthful charm. Yet, his eyes were bright and intelligent, filled with wisdom. His eyebrows, arched like coiled dragons, revealed his tension in the moment. As Kevin Schuyler exhaled in relief, he finally became aware of the softness in his arms. The two exchanged glances, and were both startled. Kevin Schuyler saw a pair of pure, crystalline eyes, shimmering like dew, resembling the stars and moon on a dark night. That purity left him shaken, and her long lashes fluttered, radiating an irresistible allure. Meanwhile, Miss Sterling saw a pair of sharp yet calm eyes. Though slightly youthful, they held a remarkable composure and clarity, as if they could pierce through all things and comprehend the universe. The two stared at each other, minutes passing before either realized their situation. Kevin Schuyler was oblivious, but Hannah Sterling, being from a noble family, quickly became aware. The young man's hand was firmly resting on her waist, while the other was securely beneath her thigh. In such close proximity, both could catch the scent of the other, a faint, elegant fragrance mingling with a pure, strong, slightly youthful, but subtly mature aroma. Hannah Sterling coughed softly, turning her face away as a faint blush appeared, struggling to escape Kevin Schuyler's embrace. Kevin Schuyler found holding this young woman incredibly comforting, yet a part of him was reluctant to let go.
Are you all right?
Kevin Schuyler's firm voice resonated, his tone direct and unwavering.
I'm fine,
she stammered. Kevin Schuyler gazed at the young woman, sinking deep into thought. Piecing together everything he had observed, combined with his sharp logical reasoning, he knew that clarifying a few key points would unravel the entire situation. His eyes shifted toward the setting sun, his entire being lost in thought. He stared intently at the blood-red and dark purple clouds in the sky, remaining motionless for a long time. Chapter 11. The Beast Tribe Invasion. Suddenly, Kevin Schuyler felt the ground beneath him tremble violently. The surrounding trees and scattered rocks seemed to dance and sway with the vibrations.
An earthquake?
He muttered, frowning as he looked deeper into the forest. But his assumption was quickly overturned by an earth-shaking roar. Far in the sky, a massive flock of dark flying beasts descended, casting an enormous shadow over the land. Leading the formation was an enormous bird-like creature, clearly the leader, with wings spanning over 20 meters wide.
Roar!
A deafening roar shattered the heavens and earth, and the flying beasts behind it echoed with guttural growls. The sky, once covered by clouds, was torn apart by the sheer force of their cries. Kevin Schuyler leaped swiftly to the treetops, enduring the powerful sound waves. Though the noise shook the heavens, it still paled in comparison to the dragon horde from before. Looking down, Kevin Schuyler was taken aback. The beast tribe's formation stretched nearly a kilometer, surging toward Heavenly Emperor's city like a tidal wave. Among them were giant centaurs, mammoth-like creatures, snake demons with human torsos and serpent tails. An uncountable number of beast tribes charged forward in chaos under the leader's command. Their pace was slow but relentless, their overwhelming aura suffocating even from 1,000 meters away. Each beast roared ferociously, exuding a terrifying, bloodthirsty presence. It was like witnessing a massive train, no, multiple trains, thundering forward. Kevin Schuyler trembled slightly, sweat beading on his forehead. Such an army, if it breached the defensive lines, how could humanity possibly withstand it? Despite their ferocity, the beast tribes refrained from destroying the trees or recklessly charging as they had in the past. Pondering this, Kevin Schuyler quickly returned to the tree trunk, scooped up Miss Sterling, and leaped to the treetop. Concealing themselves with branches, he sat down to carefully observe the beast tribe's massive army.
Indeed, they have come, they truly have arrived.
Kevin Schuyler looked at Hannah Sterling.
Why did the Beast Clan attack the moment the seal was broken? Could it be that the southern continent possesses something the Beast Clan desires? Do you not know? In ancient times, the southern continent wasn't divided into 3 nations, but was instead a vast forest, the territory of the Beast Clan. Later, human ancestors arrived, built cities, and established nations. However, as humanity's power grew stronger and their territory expanded, the Beast Clan could no longer tolerate humans encroaching on their land, leading to a war between the 2 races. At that time, our ancestors didn't engage in direct combat with the Beast Clan. Instead, they offered the Beast Clan various martial arts techniques and magical resources in exchange for permission to live on the land. Although the Beast Clan was numerous, they lacked the formidable combat abilities of humans, and had long envied humanity's extraordinary cultivation methods. Thus, they agreed to let humans coexist. But on one condition: humans were not to further expand their territory. However, humanity developed too rapidly, and it wasn't long before they had explored and settled the entirety of the southern forest. As human strength grew, the Beast Clan issued warnings, but humanity openly declared war against them. This sparked an unprecedented conflict. Both sides were evenly matched in power. To defeat the Beast Clan, the leader of humanity at the time decided to infiltrate the Celestial Star Forest and strike the enemy from within. Consequently, the 3 city lords of that era, Shan Shao, Si-Wan, and Ke-Er, personally led an elite force into the forest. It was then they discovered that deep within the forest were 3 major races: the Elven Clan, the Immortal Clan, and the Beast Clan. Humans bordered the Beast Clan's territory. The 3 city lords endured countless hardships to persuade the peace-loving Elven Clan to mediate between humanity and the Beast Clan. However, the Beast Clan, being the strongest race at the time, and now armed with human cultivation techniques, dismissed the Elven Clan's advice. Their armies marched southward, leaving a trail of bloodshed over 500 miles, slaughtering countless humans. Rivers of blood flowed, and human corpses were scattered everywhere. Humanity suffered repeated defeats, retreating to their final defensive line. At this critical moment, a human subgroup called the Shaman Clan used their own lives to create a powerful barrier, halting the Beast Clan's advance. Exhausted from the prolonged invasion, the Beast Clan's army eventually retreated, leaving humanity with a sliver of hope. Thus, maintaining the seal that kept the Beast Clan outside the barrier became a sacred duty passed down through generations of the Shaman Clan. But in my generation, why did something go wrong? At this point, tears streamed down Hannah Sterling's face. Kevin Schuyler silently analyzed the situation. This war might very well be a scheme orchestrated by humans. Perhaps they believed their strength had reached its peak and completely underestimated the so-called foolish beasts. This time, with both internal strife and external threats, there might be someone secretly pulling the strings. Otherwise, how could a seal that had lasted nearly 1,000 years suddenly fail? Roar. The Beast clan in the distance had drawn closer, their gigantic footsteps pounding the ground like a sieve, causing constant tremors. Kevin Schuyler quickly concealed his aura, remaining motionless while hiding atop a large tree. Fortunately, this tree was truly massive, so much so that the violent vibrations did not cause Kevin Schuyler and Hannah to fall. Kevin Schuyler couldn't comprehend it. If the seal was tied to the safety of all humanity, why would anyone try to stop it? Heavenly Emperor City, within the royal palace. Philip Lawrence was reading a book, preparing to remove his nightgown, when suddenly, a shadow darted in directly through the window. A masked figure, moving at incredible speed, appeared beside Philip Lawrence, their eyes filled with extreme fear and panic. Philip Lawrence tossed the book aside and was about to scold the intruder, but upon reconsideration, held back. These subordinates of his were all trusted confidants, his most capable aides, trained through life and death trials, elite operatives with exceptional qualities. Yet today, one of them seemed so alarmed.
"What's the matter?" "City Lord, according to reports from the front lines near the Celestial Star Forest, Captain Harold Bates detected signs of significant Beast Clan activity a few days ago. It has now been confirmed. A massive Beast Clan army has mobilized and is less than 300 kilometers away. At the latest, they will reach the first defensive line by tomorrow."
The masked figure hurriedly delivered these words as though holding their breath, speaking so quickly it was hard to discern. But City Lord Philip Lawrence, upon hearing this report, was so startled he sprang to his feet. With a single palm strike, the desk beside him shattered into pieces, leaving a large crater on the ground.
"What did you say?"
The City Lord suppressed his anger. The news was indeed true. Captain Harold Bates had personally come to report and was currently waiting outside the hall.
Philip Lawrence took a deep breath. These subordinates were all his trusted confidants, known for their swift and decisive actions. Though the matter seemed unbelievable, there was no choice but to believe it now. Philip Lawrence paced back and forth a few times before softly speaking to the man in black.
"Assemble all the brothers of the Shadow Division and wait at the Royal Council Hall." "Understood."
As soon as the words were spoken, the man in black vanished. Heavenly Emperor City, Royal Council Hall. 20 figures dressed in black stood neatly in the middle of the hall, their gazes fixed on the platform above. From behind the platform, Philip Lawrence hurriedly approached. Though his pace was quick, it was steady and composed. He ascended the platform, casting a glance at the 20 individuals below. These were the Shadow Division of the Heavenly Guardian Legion, a group Philip Lawrence held in the highest regard. The strength of these individuals was unparalleled, with even the weakest among them being at an advanced level. Each member was meticulously selected, elite operatives of the highest caliber. Over the years, nearly half of the missions had been accomplished by these 20 people. Their leader, Uchiha Itachi, was renowned as the foremost figure in Heavenly Emperor City. His abilities even surpassed those of Philip Lawrence. However, he was fiercely loyal, having been a brother to Philip Lawrence since childhood, contributing greatly to his grand ambitions. Though only in his early 20s, Uchiha Itachi was already the supreme commander of Heavenly Emperor City and the leader of the Shadow Division. His position was on par with, if not superior to, the commander of the Heavenly Guardian Legion. The 20 individuals raised their heads to look at their lord, their expressions devoid of any emotion. They made no sound. Not even the faintest breath could be heard.
"There are several tasks I am entrusting to you. They must be completed in the shortest time possible. Anyone who delays will face death without mercy."
The 20 individuals remained motionless, silently listening.
"First, deliver these 2 letters swiftly to the other 2 city lords."
Monday, mobilize the entire Heavenly Guardian Legion and assemble at the square outside the city. Tuesday, arranged for the unconditional relocation of all residents in zones 10 to 23 in the northern area. Wednesday, deploy all 1,000 members of the Covert Operations Unit to the Royal Palace, always ready for orders. Additionally, the security forces of all regions are to form units and immediately head to the Royal Palace. Execute. Without any unnecessary explanations or additional instructions, 20 individuals, along with 2 sealed letters, vanished in the blink of an eye. Suddenly, all the lights in Heavenly Emperor City were lit up, and the massive alarm sirens echoed throughout the city. The solemn, piercing sound traveled from afar to nearby, as if a leisurely figure was slowly passing through. The synchronized footsteps outside the city walls resounded, as all regional security forces converged on the royal palace. The residents, though unaware of what was happening, showed no signs of panic. Evidently, similar drills had been conducted many times before. But this time, without prior notice, could it truly be real? Tens of thousands of streets were devoid of any passers-by. The residential areas were eerily silent. Only squads of armored cavalry swiftly moved through. Inside the royal palace's communication chamber, the command was transmitted via the magical formation to the distant Heavenly Guardian Legion.
Heavenly Guardian Legion, Heavenly Guardian Legion, this is headquarters. The city lord has issued an order. Immediately gather the entire force and assemble at the square. I repeat.
Outside Heavenly Emperor City, at the Heavenly Guardian Legion's base. The tranquil night was abruptly interrupted by the assembly signal, faint yet distinct. Over a dozen messengers simultaneously blew their horns, and the vast base instantly resonated with the echoing sound of the signal.
Boom! Boom!
The war drums thundered, at first 1, then 2, and finally nearly 1,000 drums roared together, shaking the heavens and trembling the earth.
Relay my order. All soldiers are to assemble immediately fully armed. Cavalry will lead, the air force will guide the way, infantry will follow, and archers will bring up the rear. Anyone who disobeys will be executed on the spot.
No one questioned why, no one complained. Soldiers who were just moments ago dreaming in their beds now stood fully equipped in the square, ready to depart. The vast square, nearly 10,000 square meters, was instantly packed with people. The once pitch-black barracks were now brightly lit. Everyone stood in solemn anticipation, their expressions not of resentment or frustration but of joy and excitement. How many years had it been? How many years since the war drums last sounded? Today, nearly 1,000 drums roared in unison, igniting the fighting spirit in the blood of these warriors, true soldiers. Everyone was waiting, anticipating the arrival of the marshal. At this moment, every heart was filled with fervor, yet there was not a single unnecessary sound, not even a breath. Above the square, flocks of flying figures resembling kites silently hovered and circled in the sky. Upon closer inspection, they were people. Each held a large bow in their left hand, a quiver of arrows strapped to their back, and a massive kite of unknown material that was astonishingly sturdy. One by one, they took off from afar, joining this formidable army. On the ground, neat, square formations stood in perfect order. Identical sharp blades hung at each soldier's side, long spears held upright above their heads. Uniform attire, identical weapons, yet not a hint of chaos. They stood as still as statues in the square. Despite their numbers, there was no noise, only an eerie silence, as if the sound of 10,000 horses had vanished. In the center of the square, on a high platform, a towering figure appeared. It was Victor King, Supreme Commander of the Heavenly Guardian Legion. He wore a white battle robe and silver armor that gleamed brilliantly under the lights. Behind him followed 8 deputy generals, dressed in similar attire. Without saying another word, the overlord's sword was drawn and pointed directly at the royal palace.
March,
he commanded. The voice of one man overshadowed the roar of thousands of drums, reaching the ears of every soldier.
Charge!
The orderly cavalry surged forward, like a torrential flood pouring toward the square's exit. The same scene unfolded in Maple Leaf City and Phoenix City. 3 armies advanced toward the same destination, Celestial Star Forest. Outside Thunderstead Village lay the temporary command center of the Allied forces. The 3 city lords and high-ranking generals gathered here, a massive conference table placed in the center. City Lord Philip Lawrence sat at one end. Beside him was a woman of exceptionally tall stature, her eyes as bright as the serene blue moon, sitting quietly. She exuded an incredibly natural aura, wearing a golden crown nearly 20 centimeters tall, a flowing white gown, and her jet-black hair cascading down to her waist. Her figure was flawless, her beauty unparalleled, without a trace of fluctuation. Just a single furrow of her brows or a slight smile could captivate hearts, making it impossible to resist. Truly, she was a peerless beauty of national renown. Sophia Lawrence lived up to her name as an extraordinary beauty. On the other side, a middle-aged man with silver hair, wearing a turban, stared fixedly at Sophia Lawrence's chest, drool dripping onto the conference table, his eyes sparkling with stars. This man was none other than Ethan Woods, the city lord of Maple Leaf City. Dressed like a ninja, his white hair was tied back, and loose wooden clogs adorned his feet. Despite the current discussion being about the life and death of the 3 nations, Lord Ethan Woods seemed utterly indifferent.
Ahem.
Philip Lawrence, seeing Ethan Woods' blatant behavior, shot him a disdainful glance.
Fellow city lords, you must have received the news. The Beast Tribe's army has already approached the first line of defense. At the latest, by tomorrow morning, the 2 sides will clash. Brother, I truly don't understand. Why is the seal still intact, yet the Beast clan dares to invade? Could it be that the seal has been broken?
The one speaking was Ethan Woods. Though he voiced these words, his gaze remained fixed on Sophia Lawrence.
That's correct. We've just received news that the seal has been shaken, but for some reason, the Wu clan hasn't reinforced it.
Philip Lawrence replied helplessly, looking at him.
Could it be that something has happened to the Wu clan?
Sophia Lawrence ignored Ethan Woods' intense gaze and spoke in a calm tone.
According to the detective's report, the 3rd young lady of the Sterling clan mysteriously disappeared a few days ago without a trace. She had once commissioned a task in Heavenly Emperor City through me, but after that, her whereabouts became unknown.
Philip Lawrence added thoughtfully.
Such an important matter, yet you've been so careless. This is utterly irresponsible.
Ethan Woods finally shifted his gaze to Philip Lawrence and directly criticized him.
What do you mean by that? For nearly 1,000 years, there hasn't been a single problem. How was I supposed to know something would happen now? Besides, this is an internal matter of our nation. Who could possibly harm the Wu clan?
Philip Lawrence immediately retorted, clearly irritated, wishing he could punch Ethan on the spot. The 2 hadn't even begun discussing their strategy, but were already arguing, a habit they had grown accustomed to. Sophia Lawrence, unfazed, remained silent, lost in thought.
Nowadays, the combined
strength of our 3 nations has far surpassed that of the past. Furthermore, new weapons, magic, ninjutsu, and combat techniques have emerged one after another. I wonder if we can fend off the Beast clan's attack this time.
Sophia Lawrence murmured, her tone revealing concern, yet her expression remained as calm as still water, devoid of any emotion. Next, the 3 city lords, each showcasing their strategic acumen, devised flawless battle plans. For this battle, they were confident and unstoppable, advancing like a hot knife through butter. Outside, the grand armies of the 3 nations stood in orderly formations. It was no wonder the 3 city lords were unconcerned about the Beast Tribe's attack. The Heavenly Guardian Legion,
with nearly 100,000 soldiers, consisted entirely of warriors with ironclad bodies, forged through countless battles into formidable fighters of exceptional caliber. As for the Huiying Corps of Maple Leaf City, there's even less to be said. Though numbering only 30,000, their combat strength was absolutely on par with the Heavenly Guardian Legion. These were ninjas, wielding powerful ninjutsu, excelling in single combat, and operating with perfect teamwork. How could the foolish beast tribes ever compare? Then there was the Phoenix City Corps, composed entirely of mighty mages, each capable of devastating entire areas. With 50,000 gathered together, even if each one cast a single fireball, it would be enough to burn down the entire southern forest. Such a formidable force gathered in one place truly seemed invincible, cutting through all obstacles and winning every battle. The main battlefield was at the northern edge of the forest near Heavenly Emperor City, the first line of defense after the seal. Now fully assembled with human warriors, the cavalry stood in perfect formation, ready to charge at the enemy's appearance. Behind them were tens of thousands of archers, bows drawn and arrows nocked, waiting for the beasts to become their targets. Nearby, tens of thousands of ninjas lay hidden. Several dozen miles further back, countless mages awaited to provide reinforcements. Should the first line of defense be breached, a second and third line could immediately be formed. With such an arrangement, who could break through? Any enemy coming would meet their demise, let alone the brainless beast tribes. And yet, this time, the three great city lords made a grave mistake, a mistake so significant that it plunged the three nations' people into unprecedented peril. Nearly 100 million citizens inside and outside the three nations were almost entirely wiped out. Stay tuned for the next chapter, the Overlord's crushing defeat. Chapter 12, the Overlord's crushing defeat. The beast tribe unexpectedly attacked the human race. Was it an accident or a deliberate scheme? Now, with the two armies facing off, which side is stronger and which is weaker? At the edge of Celestial Star Forest, a defensive line formed by hundreds of thousands of powerful human warriors silently awaited the arrival of the beast tribe's grand army. The three monarchs, evidently brimming with confidence, leisurely sipped tea and chatted. After all, they were veterans who had fought the beast tribe before and harbored a deep-seated disdain for the so-called brainless beasts. Within Celestial Star Forest, atop a towering tree that pierced the skies, two figures in white stood. Kevin Schuyler frowned slightly. This time, it seemed the beast tribe was not as simple as before. Rumors had it that the beast tribe's combat style was always chaotic, but now, that didn't seem to be the case. Their formations were orderly and disciplined, with no signs of the usual intertribal conflicts. Under the command of their leader, they could rival the human army. Giant flying beasts hovered above in silence, in perfect formation, and there were even traces of magical arrays. Was this truly the beast tribe? The legendary beasts, known for their physical prowess and simple minds, was that just a myth? Just as Kevin Schuyler secretly worried about their position being exposed, a long, resonant call echoed through the air. It sounded like a mix between a phoenix's cry and a wolf's howl, ethereal and haunting. What shocked Kevin Schuyler even more was that, upon hearing the sound, all the beasts immediately halted. The stomping of their feet stirred up thick fog, enveloping the entire land and sky, and then they stood motionless. Silent. Perfectly still. Hannah Sterling stared wide-eyed at the scene, her luscious red lips forming an "Oh!" Kevin Schuyler knew, this time, the beast tribe was acting unusually. In the hours that followed, the beast army remained utterly motionless. Moments ago, they had descended like stars falling from the heavens, shaking the earth with their presence. Now, they were like a tranquil lake, devoid of even the slightest ripple. Faced with this situation,
even someone as clever as Kevin.
Skylar couldn't make sense of what was happening. In the southern part of the island, far out at sea, a sudden storm filled the horizon with dark shadows rapidly advancing toward the shore. Fishermen near the coast, sensing the overwhelming force of the approaching waves, quickly retreated. The shadows brought towering waves nearly 5 meters high crashing down. As it turned out, these were countless wooden rafts, though calling them rafts was generous, as they were merely a few wooden poles tied together. On these makeshift vessels stood enormous beasts. In the skies above, flocks of birds filled the air, darkening the heavens over a vast expanse. The massive shadow enveloped the entire coastline, and all the coastal residents felt an immense pressure. The overwhelming aura, as if from an army of thousands, caused many to collapse in fear. Piercing alarm sirens echoed across the entirety of southern abyss. At the same time, identical sharp alarms blared from the eastern and western coasts. The city lords, upon receiving the news, were thunderstruck, their faces turning pale. What was happening? A sea-based attack by the demon race? And they even knew how to sail? Stunned, shocked, utterly bewildered, it took a long moment before the 3 city lords regained their senses. They immediately issued orders, deploying 2/3 of the air force and 1/3 of the ground forces to intercept the attacking demon race from all directions. Each of the 3 city lords led their personal guards to defend a specific sector. Simultaneously, orders were given for coastal residents to retreat into the cities, activating the highest level of defense and initiating absolute protection protocols. The gates of Heavenly Emperor's city suddenly opened, and a powerful protective shield rose, enveloping the massive gates. A colossal orb of light emerged, crackling with lightning. The city walls automatically extended 3 meters higher. Outside the city, tens of thousands of demons swarmed into coastal towns, wreaking havoc everywhere. Those capable of resisting were summoned to the royal palace, while the rest were mercilessly slaughtered. Terrified screams echoed across the land, smoke and flames rose into the sky, and rivers of blood flowed. At this moment, everyone was desperately fleeing for their lives. The demon race, however, coordinated with precision. Killers killed, wall breakers broke walls, executing their tasks without the slightest chaos. As the coastal towns had never faced such a threat, they lacked any defensive forces. Confronted with the demon army, the human race instantly became helpless prey, left at the mercy of the invaders. Corpses were scattered everywhere, mutilated bodies, blood flowing in torrents, rivers of blood, and a blazing inferno engulfing the skies. Faced with humanity, which had no means to resist, the Northern Beast army showed no mercy, slaughtering indiscriminately. At this moment, however, a long howl echoed from within the Northern Beast army. Immediately, all the beasts turned around and swiftly retreated, moving like a storm, vanishing as quickly as lightning. What was the meaning of this? The 3 commanders were stunned, and decision-makers from various nations exchanged puzzled glances. What was happening this time? Were they being toyed with by a group of beasts? Nevertheless, being seasoned commanders, they quickly regained composure and analyzed the situation thoroughly. They decided to deploy half of their forces to the coastal regions. However, just as these reinforcements were halfway to their destination, the Northern Beast army returned, this time launching a direct and merciless assault. Massive beasts with thick hides and immense strength stood at the forefront, while agile flying creatures formed formations in the skies to confront the human air force. A colossal battle was about to erupt. Overlord Victor King, sitting high on the back of his steed, Otrui, raised the sky-piercer halberd and roared,
"Whoever dares to invade my borders shall be killed without mercy."
Victor King, a battle king-level warrior, unleashed a shout so powerful it scattered the clouds above. With a light wave of his command flag, the sounds of war drums and charging horns resounded. Countless flying swords soared through the skies. The human warriors were no pushovers. Each of them, clad in green armor, was stronger than the ferocious beasts. With their spears wielded, they flung massive mammoths as large as mountains into the air before slaying them. The terrifying Heavenly Guardian Legion was fearless against the beast army. Each soldier fought like a war god, cutting down their foes. The ninjas were even more agile, their concealed weapons drenched in blood within moments. Their devastating ninjutsu dominated the battlefield, unleashing fire, water, and earth-based attacks. Massive forbidden spells were also cast, transforming vast areas into desolate wastelands. The mages in the rear proved even more formidable, raining down wind blades, ice spears, and colossal fireballs like hailstones from the heavens. They also provided powerful magical shields for the warriors, preventing the beasts from getting close. However, the sheer number of the beast army was overwhelming. There was no end to them. Moreover, there were venomous creatures whose poison guaranteed death upon contact, as well as beast kings who wreaked havoc over hundreds of miles, unstoppable. Thus, a full-scale war erupted, plunging the entire island nation into flames and chaos, with no place spared from conflict. Meanwhile, Kevin Schuyler found himself in a rare moment of peace. With the beast army heading south, no one paid him any attention. Following Hannah Sterling's advice, Kevin decided to head north, aiming to enter the territory of the Elven clan. It was said that the Wu clan and the Elven clan shared a common ancestry and had a strong bond. While the beast army was engaged in battle, the Celestial Star Forest, known for its mystique and peril, was eerily quiet. Not even an ant could be seen. This sent chills down Kevin Schuyler's spine, making him secretly worry about Luna's safety. Could Uncle Michael Carter protect Luna properly? What if little Bumpkin was trampled by the beast army? Kevin Schuyler anxiously looked toward the distant battlefield, where the sounds of slaughter echoed in the skies. Shaking his head helplessly, he realized that returning would be futile. He lacked the strength to make a difference. It became clear that he needed to grow stronger. If he couldn't protect those around him, wouldn't he be forced to watch them drift away? As Kevin Schuyler and Hannah Sterling ventured into the mysterious and dangerous Celestial Star Forest, their goal was to reach the Elven clan. However, the forest was vast and boundless. When would the two of them ever arrive? Chapter 13. Absolute Defense. Kevin Schuyler led Hannah Sterling into the depths of the Celestial Star Forest, where countless towering trees grew densely together. The forest was eerily quiet, shrouded in mist, with sunlight piercing through, creating magical beams of light. The two cautiously advanced, knowing this was far from a peaceful land. Kevin Schuyler was aware that the Celestial Star Forest was vast and boundless, and finding the Elven clan would not be easy. A fast means of transportation was essential, but in this place, there wasn't even a single feather in sight. Where could they possibly find one? Wait, a feather? Kevin Schuyler's eyes lit up as he spotted a massive flying beast in the sky behind them, but his excitement quickly dimmed. Hannah Sterling seemed to read his thoughts and said, "Lure it here. I have my ways to tame it." Kevin Schuyler turned back, a faint smile appearing on his face, and nodded. Not long after, Kevin Schuyler darted swiftly from the treetops, with a massive winged dragon beast chasing close behind. Its wingspan stretched over 10 meters, and its sharp claws gleamed menacingly as it targeted the human youth who dared provoke it. When they reached a dense part of the forest, the youth suddenly stopped and turned around. The winged dragon beast continued its charge, its immense presence blowing away the surrounding trees, exuding a terrifying killing intent. Kevin Schuyler silently braced himself, acknowledging the creature's ferocity. Just as the winged dragon beast came within 10 meters above Kevin Schuyler's head, a clear and enchanting female voice rang out. "Heavenly enchantment, subdue!" A massive light screen enveloped the winged dragon beast. Beside Kevin Schuyler, a graceful figure suddenly appeared, Hannah Sterling. Her hands formed seals as she pointed forward. The winged dragon beast struggled fiercely against the binding force, but the more it resisted, the tighter it was restrained. Eventually, it descended to the ground, ceasing its resistance. Hannah Sterling exhaled in relief and smiled at Kevin Schuyler. Overjoyed, Kevin Schuyler leapt up, pulling Hannah onto the winged dragon beast's back. Under the influence of Hannah Sterling's secret technique, the beast soared into the sky, carrying the two deeper into the forest. Experiencing flight for the first time, Kevin Schuyler's excitement was evident as his eyes sparkled, taking in the sights of the sky and earth. The strong wind buffeted them, causing them to sway slightly. Kevin Schuyler had no choice but to use the Lin Bing technique, creating a barrier to shield them from the wind. With the winged dragon beast, their speed was incomparable to before, covering hundreds of meters in mere moments. Moreover, the beast seemed unbothered by carrying the two small passengers, showing no signs of fatigue. Kevin Schuyler was most relieved that they hadn't encountered any stronger beasts along the way. It seemed the beasts of the celestial star forest had already mobilized elsewhere. However, this also deepened Kevin Schuyler's concern. Could the human forces hold their ground? And would the Elven clan, as Hannah Sterling had mentioned, send reinforcements? After flying for nearly 3 days and nights, the two endured the harsh elements. Kevin Schuyler seemed unaffected, but Hannah Sterling struggled, though she persisted without stopping. Kevin Schuyler couldn't help but see her in a new light. Back in the celestial star forest during the seal, he had glimpsed her resilience. It appeared she was far from an ordinary, fragile woman. Kevin Schuyler mused to himself, and suddenly, his thoughts wandered to how soft and comfortable a woman's body could feel. Just as Kevin Schuyler's mind drifted, a massive sphere of light hurtled toward them, nearly striking the winged dragon beast. Fortunately, the beast reacted instinctively and dodged in time. Kevin Schuyler squinted into the distance. About 1,000 meters ahead, an elderly man in white robes stood holding the staff of divinity. His lips moved in a chant, and his left hand continuously formed seals.
"You vile old man, how dare you try to harm me?"
Kevin Schuyler exclaimed as heaven-born Fang unsheathed itself in response. He sensed that this elder was no ordinary figure. Meanwhile, Hannah Sterling stared wide-eyed at the man ahead, seemingly in disbelief.
"Do you know him?"
Kevin Schuyler asked. Before long, the two landed in front of the elder. Kevin Schuyler remained on high alert, while behind him, Hannah Sterling's body trembled.
"Why? Why is it like this?"
Her once strong voice now quivered. The elder stopped forming seals and opened his eyes, which radiated a blue glow. Kevin Schuyler stepped forward to confront him directly, exuding a powerful killing intent. It felt as though he had been thrown into the depths of the ocean, unable to move, yet he fiercely resisted. The vortex in his mind spun wildly, with Lin Bing rapidly absorbing energy. Gritting his teeth, Kevin Schuyler growled,
"You damned old man! Is this how you greet people? What do you want?"
As the vortex in his mind reached a certain speed, Kevin Schuyler finally felt some relief, while the elder stood there, stunned. Despite being a mid to high level magic practitioner, the elder hadn't expected a mere youth to withstand him. It was as if he had seen a ghost. Unable to hold back any longer, Hannah Sterling rushed forward, clutching the elder's white robes tightly.
"Why? Why is it like this?"
she cried. The elder flung her hands aside forcefully.
"You are nothing but a burden of mine. For the sake of the greater cause, sacrificing a useless vase like you is hardly a loss."
Hannah's eyes filled with despair.
"So, all of this was orchestrated by you?" "That's right. I caused your seal to fail. But I don't have the power to mobilize tens of thousands of Beast Tribe soldiers on my own.
Kevin Schuyler, standing nearby, instantly grasped the entire situation. Rage surged within him as he gripped the heaven-born Fang tightly.
Cry, you useless fool! Inheriting the Wu clan's bloodline is a sacred duty, and you're utterly unworthy. Your existence is meaningless. From childhood to now, all you've ever done is cry. Only I am the true heir of the Wu clan, destined to inherit the legacy of the Wu god and restore the clan's former glory.
Although Kevin Schuyler didn't fully understand the relationship between these two individuals, at this moment, he cared little for such details. He was certain this war had something to do with that despicable old man. Kevin Schuyler leapt forward, his powerful blade aimed directly at the elder.
No!
Hannah Sterling suddenly soared upward, intercepting Kevin Schuyler's fierce strike. Although Kevin Schuyler restrained himself at the last moment, part of the blow still struck Hannah Sterling. Her graceful figure, alluring and elegant, was mercilessly thrown to the ground. Her pure white robe was stained crimson with blood, and her breathtakingly beautiful face displayed a serene expression of release as she coughed up fresh blood. Kevin Schuyler cradled Hannah in his arms, while a glint of malice flickered in the old man's eyes, quickly replaced by a subtle hint of satisfaction.
Foolish woman.
Kevin Schuyler channeled his immense spiritual energy through his hand into Hannah's body, attempting to resonate with the violet energy sphere to heal her severe injuries. At the same time, he swiftly took to the skies, wary of a potential attack from the elder. Yet, the old man showed no intention of pursuing them. Kevin Schuyler had already guessed the reason. He was guarding something there, and couldn't leave easily. However, Hannah Sterling's body seemed to harbor a deeper wound, one that affected her very soul and couldn't be healed through physical means. Out of options, Kevin Schuyler gently laid her down. Hannah Sterling smiled faintly, attempting to speak, but was overtaken by a fit of coughing, spitting up more blood. Kevin Schuyler's heart grew heavier. What was this situation? He had injured her, tried to help her solve her troubles, yet she had intervened to stop him? Could it be that the old man was her father? Or perhaps her father-in-law?
He is my father!
Hannah Sterling finally spoke. Kevin Schuyler, initially unsure if he'd heard correctly, replayed her words in his mind and widened his eyes in disbelief.
Your father? A father who treats his daughter like that? Good thing I don't have a father, otherwise I'd be doomed.
Kevin Schuyler muttered awkwardly, his gaze evasive and sly, clearly trying to cover up his lie. Hannah shook her head.
He wasn't like this before. He entrusted the clan to me. He was my faith and motivation. He placed his trust in me, wanting me to carry the mission of protecting the Wu clan in his stead. But why? Why would he be the one to destroy it with his own hands?
Kevin Schuyler, exceptionally intelligent, had already pieced everything together from the moment he met the old man and noticed Hannah's strange expression. That old man was none other than the previous patriarch of the Wu clan, Sterling Quang Thap, a member of the Sterling family's branch line. He had been exiled and mysteriously disappeared, leaving everything to his daughter, Hannah Sterling. In truth, he had colluded with the Beast clan, plotting to destroy the island. There were 2 points of suspicion. First, the Beast clan's unusual actions. There must be a special reason behind them. Was it connected to this old man? Second, with the island destroyed, what benefit did the old man gain? Was he truly loyal to the clan, or to some mysterious commander of the Beast clan? Now wasn't the time to dwell on such thoughts. Hannah was in grave danger. Kevin Schuyler furrowed his brows tightly. What should he do now? It was said that priestesses had the ability of self-rebirth. Did Hannah possess this power? When Kevin Schuyler asked this, Hannah looked at him with a complex expression. Kevin Schuyler quietly lowered his head. Was she blaming him for injuring her? After a long silence, just as Kevin Schuyler could hardly bear it anymore, Hannah slowly extended her delicate hand, gently placing it on his forehead. At that moment, Kevin Schuyler felt a strange sensation, as if dying for the woman before him would be worth it. Even Kevin Schuyler himself couldn't believe it. Was she planning to seal him, just as she had sealed the winged dragon beast? While Kevin Schuyler was lost in thought, Hannah had already transmitted a mysterious energy into his forehead. She said,
"This is a witchcraft technique I created myself, reincarnation rebirth. In truth, I've surpassed my father. I only pretended not to know anything to avoid worrying him. In reality, he knew I was a rare genius of the Wu clan, but—"
At this point, Hannah's sorrow deepened. Kevin Schuyler watched as her life force gradually faded, feeling utterly powerless. After a long while, he tightly embraced her increasingly lifeless, flawless body, daringly pressing his face against her stunningly beautiful one. A fierce sense of self-reproach surged within him. Kevin Schuyler couldn't help but feel maddened with hatred. What am I really? What am I doing? Where is this place truly? What is my mission? What is my faith? Someone, tell me, why did my attempt to save her end up harming her? In the end, Kevin Schuyler gazed into her kind eyes with a conflicted look. Finally, he experienced that feeling once more. He nodded, imprinting that sensation deep in his heart, and vowed to himself, "This is what they call love. Bit by bit, it fades away. Bit by bit, it disappears. The autumn wind sweeps the falling leaves. Are you the heartless one? Or is it the tree that refuses to hold on? Why is it that only after losing something do we learn to cherish it?" Hannah's body gradually transformed into starlight, merging with Kevin Schuyler's forehead.
"If possible, one day I will be reborn. I hope we can meet again. Before that, I want to give you something, to protect you in my stead."
Hannah's final words echoed across the sky. Kevin Schuyler stared blankly at the empty ground, his face filled with confusion. He lacked faith, lacked purpose, drifting like a waterweed with no sense of home. Unable to protect the one he loved or the one who loved him, what meaning was there left in life?
"Ah!"
Kevin Schuyler roared toward the heavens, his cry shaking the earth. Suddenly, he soared into the air, his eyes bloodshot, his nails sharpening and lengthening, his fangs growing. In the distance, a void suddenly rippled, and a figure clad in black appeared, astonishment etched across their face. Their gaze fixed intently on the youth far away, their heart filled with questions. Kevin Schuyler understood now. He lacked faith. He had to protect the one who loved him, and the one he loved. At that moment, as Kevin raged, a beam of white light erupted from his forehead, enveloping him in a 2-meter-wide luminous barrier. Gradually, Kevin calmed down, staring at the glowing shield.
"Is this what Hannah left for me? Absolute defense? It may protect my body, but can it protect my heart? Hannah?"
"I think this boy has fallen for you. Will we meet again?"
Kevin Schuyler slowly regained his composure, silently resolving to find the Elven clan and end this war. This was Hannah's destiny. That old man's power was immense. He wouldn't be easy to deal with. Moreover, whatever he was guarding must be even more terrifying, far beyond Kevin's current ability to confront. The only viable plan now was to seek reinforcements. With this in mind, Kevin turned and walked away. He needed to find that winged dragon beast again. In that quiet void, where emotions blossomed in a young man, lay the origins of a world. The world was vast, so vast. When would this youth grow strong enough to see through every corner of existence, to protect everyone he wished to protect? Would this world grant him peace to maintain, or would it challenge him with a great cleansing? Stay tuned for the next chapter, Immortal Clan. #### Chapter 14, Immortal Clan. Kevin Schuyler rode the flying beast for a full half-month, before finally arriving at a desolate land. Here, it seemed even the sunlight was reluctant to shine. A gloomy wind swept endlessly across the terrain, with all plants dried and withered, leaving only sparse, lifeless trees. Skulls were scattered everywhere, some human, some belonging to magical beasts, and in some spots, eerie lights flickered intermittently. It was as if this land was a graveyard, burying a great emperor, silently narrating his past glory. Kevin Schuyler was certain he had taken a wrong turn. The elven clan resided in dense ancient forests, so why would they be in such a barren place? Just as he was contemplating whether to change direction, he noticed a disturbance below. A small skull emerged from the ground, its hollow eye sockets glowing with a terrifying green light. It held a seemingly tattered bow, yet strangely, golden flames continuously emanated from it. The flames appeared as though they were from the underworld, exuding an enigmatic power. The creature looked around, appearing lost but cautious, as if evading something. Kevin Schuyler, elated, leapt down with a loud boom, landing directly on the ground. Little Bone was carefully navigating the path when suddenly he sensed a wave of murderous intent above his head. A figure descended directly from the sky, landing right in front of him. Bone Mask Holder was momentarily stunned and couldn't react in time. The young man respectfully bowed and said, "Excuse me, may I ask?" Kevin Schuyler hadn't even finished his sentence when Bone Mask Holder swiftly burrowed into the ground with a swoosh. Kevin Schuyler was utterly confused. "Do I look that intimidating?" "Hey, Little Bone, I'm not a bad person," he said in a reassuring tone. After much coaxing, Little Bone finally poked his head out cautiously. Kevin Schuyler quickly stepped forward and said, "Hello, I'm lost. Could you tell me where this place is?" Seeing that this person posed no threat, Little Bone emerged from the burrow. A childlike voice rang out, "Are you from a faraway place?" Kevin Schuyler was astonished to discover that this was a skeletal child. Yes, I just arrived," he replied. Little Bone giggled, his innocent, childish voice evoking a sense of pity. "It's been a long time since we've had visitors from afar," he said. After some conversation, Kevin Schuyler finally learned that this place was the legendary land of the Immortals, the territory of the Immortal Clan. Even more astonishing was the revelation that the Immortal Clan was embroiled in a civil war. The former ruler, the Immortal Emperor, had mysteriously vanished, and a faction led by the Sorcerer King had taken the opportunity to rebel, vying for the throne. Thus, a great war broke out between the loyalists supporting the Immortal Emperor and the rebels. Little Bone was the younger brother of Bone Tower King, a former general of the Immortal Emperor. After their homeland was devastated, Little Bone set out alone in search of his brother. Not long ago, he had been pursued by the rebels, and had narrowly escaped by hiding in the cave. Kevin Schuyler let out a deep sigh. Alas, war is always cruel. "My name is Kevin Schuyler, a human. Do you know where the Elven clan is?" Little Bone shook its head and replied, "I don't know, but I heard my brother say that the Elven clan is near the Immortal clan's territory. If you find my brother, you'll surely know how to get to the Elven clan." Kevin Schuyler gently patted Little Bone. "You want me to help you find your brother, don't you?" Little Bone lowered its head. "It's very hard for me to find him alone. I don't even know where he is. Don't worry, I'll help you find your brother." When Kevin Schuyler made a promise, he was determined to see it through, no matter the cost. Little Bone finally raised its head in joy, as if catching a glimmer of hope amidst the despair of war. "These are all my friends. They died in the war," Little Bone said, opening the bag on its back to reveal several skulls. Speaking of this, Little Bone lowered its head again. "War is always merciless, sparing no one, not even the uninvolved." Kevin Schuyler decided to find the Bone King first to clarify the directions before heading to the Elven clan. He hid his flying beast, took Little Bone along,
and carefully navigated deeper into the heart of this land. The further they went, the more desolate it became. Many cities were engulfed in smoke and flames. From the massive structures, one could still see traces of their former glory. Black crows perched on crumbled city walls, uttering chilling cries, narrating the bygone prosperity. What is the purpose of war, after all? Why is everyone fighting for the Sorcerer King? What is their faith? As Kevin Schuyler pondered, a loud shout interrupted their path. A patrol team had discovered them, and on their flag, the large word, Sorcerer, was inscribed. Without hesitation, Kevin Schuyler pulled Little Bone and ran. A necromancer began chanting, sending a skull-shaped energy or flying toward them. Just as Kevin Schuyler was about to counterattack, a massive energy sphere suddenly appeared. The 2-meter radius sphere easily blocked the necromancer's attack.
Absolute defense?
Kevin Schuyler halted, and Heaven-born Fang unsheathed with a resonant sound. Lin Bing spun wildly, a fierce killing intent gathering along the blade.
Spear of Wind!
The small soldiers never expected this human to be so formidable. Unfortunately for them, it was too late. The powerful blade light split into 3 streams, mercilessly slicing through the group, leaving only 3 shallow grooves on the ground. Even Little Bone's skull appeared astonished. So, this person was truly that strong. This time, there might be hope in finding his elder brother. Kevin Schuyler quickly cleaned up the corpses of the small soldiers, and moved even more stealthily. His earlier attack had been too swift. He should have captured one to inquire about the location of the Bone Skull King. Determined, Kevin Schuyler and Little Bone Skull deliberately sought out another patrol team. Suddenly, they leapt out from behind a boulder, slaying several executioner demons, leaving behind 2 undead mages.
Speak! Where is the Bone Skull King?
The undead mages, their eyes radiating a deadly aura, showed no fear. They raised their staffs of divinity, resolutely launching a final attack. Kevin Schuyler sighed, and slit the mage's throat. It seemed impossible to extract any information from these small soldiers.
You want to know where the Bone Skull King is? I can tell you.
A flash of dark light appeared, and a seductive figure suddenly emerged beside Kevin Schuyler. If she had wanted to take his life, his head would already be rolling. Cold sweat dripped down Kevin Schuyler's back as the mysterious woman's overpowering aura pinned him in place. His mind raced, and the energy around him gradually came under his control, allowing him to regain some composure. Looking up at the woman, Kevin Schuyler saw her voluptuous figure draped in a black cloak that barely concealed her allure. Her ample chest revealed smooth, creamy skin, her slender waist was fully exposed, and beneath her shapely hips were long, graceful legs. Though her face was obscured by a mask, the gaps revealed a beauty that was almost otherworldly. Her bright eyes sparkled with an electrifying intensity. Kevin Schuyler froze, momentarily stunned.
Kevin Schuyler, big brother.
Little Bone Skull's voice snapped him out of his daze. The woman was already standing next to him, her faint, intoxicating fragrance filling the air.
Hee, little handsome one, are you captivated by your big sister?
She teased. Kevin Schuyler quickly composed himself.
Women are dangerous.
The thought flashed through his mind. He stepped back cautiously and said,
Greetings, my name is Kevin Schuyler. May I ask if you know the whereabouts of the Bone Skull King?
To mask his embarrassment, Kevin Schuyler bowed his head. The Queen of Torment smiled, as she noticed the young man blushing from her playful remark.
What's wrong? Am I not beautiful enough? Why are you so scared? Big sister doesn't eat people,
she said with a chuckle. Kevin Schuyler finally regained his calm, though he couldn't understand why he, usually so composed, was acting this way today. Kevin Schuyler looked up, bowed slightly, and said,
Elder sister, you are indeed very beautiful, but I urgently need to find the Skeleton King. Please tell me his whereabouts."
The Queen of Pain frowned.
"Why are you looking for the Skeleton King?"
Kevin Schuyler observed the expression of the woman in front of him and boldly replied,
"I want to kill him. He is my enemy."
Little Bone looked at Kevin Schuyler in astonishment, her eyes full of confusion.
"Kevin Schuyler, brother? You?"
Kevin Schuyler quickly covered Little Bone's mouth and said,
"This is the younger brother of the Skeleton King. I intend to use him as leverage to force the Skeleton King to accept his fate."
Little Bone's eyes welled up with tears, but her body was tightly restrained by Kevin Schuyler.
Hee.
The Queen of Pain let out a seductive laugh.
"I see. Follow me, and I'll lead you to the Skeleton King."
Kevin Schuyler finally breathed a sigh of relief and whispered into Little Bone's ear,
"Don't cry, Little Bone. We're just tricking this woman so she'll take us to your elder brother."
Little Bone, recovering from her sorrow, asked,
"Really?"
Kevin Schuyler looked at the woman, then back at Little Bone, and firmly patted his chest.
"I promised you, and I will keep my word."
Seeing the determination in Kevin Schuyler's eyes, Little Bone realized she had misunderstood, and the two followed the Queen of Pain into the undead army's camp.
"May I ask for your name, elder sister?"
Kevin Schuyler struck up a conversation with the woman.
"Oh my, such a sweet tongue. My name is Akasha, but everyone calls me the Queen of Pain."
Another seductive laugh escaped her lips, almost making Kevin Schuyler lose his composure. Hearing this, Little Bone's body suddenly trembled, her eyes filled with fear. Kevin Schuyler patted her shoulder, signaling her to stay calm.
"Elder sister, someone as beautiful as you shouldn't be called the Queen of Pain. I think the title Queen of Elves suits you better."
The Queen of Pain, hearing such flattery from this young man, felt a hint of delight in her heart. Yet, he had no idea about her merciless, bloodthirsty nature. If he did, would he still dare to call her elder sister so boldly? Thinking of this, the Queen of Pain raised her head to gaze at the sky, lost in thought as she walked ahead. Kevin Schuyler noticed this and realized that this beautiful woman also had her own burdens. He chose not to disturb her. They arrived at a flat expanse of land, where the vast undead army's camp stretched endlessly. Kevin Schuyler followed the Queen of Pain to the front lines of the army. In the distance, he saw a massive skull floating in midair.
"Brother!"
Little Bone immediately recognized it as the banner of her elder brother, the Skeleton King. Her eyes filled with tears as she tried to rush forward, but Kevin Schuyler quickly held her back, smiling at the surrounding soldiers to ease the tense atmosphere. The Queen of Pain pointed ahead and said,
"That's the Skeleton King's camp. We're currently at war with him. The next battle is set for tomorrow night. Do you have any plans?"
Kevin Schuyler excitedly replied,
"Perfect. I'll take my revenge now."
With that, he dragged Little Bone and started running.
Clang!
Dozens of sharp spears were instantly pointed at Kevin Schuyler. Remaining calm, Kevin Schuyler looked at the Queen of Pain and said,
"I humbly request the Queen to allow us to pass."
The Queen gently patted Kevin Schuyler's head.
"You reckless brat, that's a military camp with tens of thousands of soldiers. How do you plan to seek revenge? Are you going there to die?"
The soldiers around, seeing the Demon Queen, known as the ruthless Queen of Pain, someone who usually kills without hesitation, showing such tenderness toward this young man, couldn't help but admire Kevin Schuyler even more. Indeed, this was their leader. Don't be fooled by her usual cheerful demeanor. On the battlefield, just one angry roar from her could claim hundreds of lives. Moreover, any man who dared to glance at her a few times too many would often find himself struck by a green poisonous dart, dying without even knowing how it happened. Kevin Schuyler let out a casual,
"Oh,"
and said,
"Then tomorrow night, I'll charge forward with all of you."
The Queen of Pain looked at the young man with a sorrowful expression. Such a good lad. Would he also have to perish in this ravine filled with countless lives?
All right, rest assured. Tomorrow night, I'll send someone to fetch you.
Kevin, Schuyler, and Little Bone Skull were arranged to stay in a small tent, guarded by over a dozen soldiers. This was to ensure that the younger brother of the Bone Skull King wouldn't escape. Kevin Schuyler even pretended to tie Little Bone Skull up, declaring that there was absolutely no way he could run away. In the middle of the night, the moon shone especially brightly over this desolate land, as if it were the deity upon which this land relied for survival, illuminating every corner. Kevin, Schuyler, and Little Bone Skull sat quietly in the tent. Little Bone Skull asked,
Brother Kevin Schuyler, how will we find Brother Bone Skull tomorrow?
Kevin Schuyler gestured for Little Bone Skull to lower his voice and replied,
Tomorrow, they will definitely use you as a hostage. Your brother will surely know you're here. So as long as I cooperate with your brother, we'll be able to rescue you successfully. Just remember, once someone comes to save you, run with them as fast as you can. Don't look back, no matter what. Brother Kevin Schuyler, what about you? I'll be fine. I'm very strong. They can't kill me.
Under Kevin Schuyler's comforting words, Little Skeleton finally drifted off to sleep. The next day, sunlight once again bathed the earth, bringing light to this dark land.